Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Stripped by Sia, your podcast for strippers, sex workers, and all the fancy naked people in between. I am your host, Steph Sia, aka Kimchi. On stage, I am a dancer based in Vancouver, Canada. I'm also a digital content creator, and I'm also a cam model on Streammate. So I have done a lot of different things in sex work, including being a sugar baby for many years back in the day, which was my start. And I bring this show to you every single week with new guests, new topics to uncover about the sex industry. And I do this because I really want to try to destigmatize the industry. There's a lot of stigma, sometimes some shame, a lot of judgment that comes with the work that we do. And I just want to do my part in educating folks, normalizing the industry, normalizing our profession, and to help provide a better understanding of the work it is that we do. So, as I mentioned, I bring on different guests every week to kind of explain their corner of the industry or maybe their nonprofit organizations that help benefit sex workers and support them, maybe their talent, maybe their producers. It's just very, very varied. And also, I think it's really in depth too, because we really want to have a full, transparent understanding of what it is that we do. Because there are a lot of different folks that listen to the show. So I just want to be able to educate as much as I can. And I just want to say hello before we get started into all the things today, which is going to be a really good episode on. We're going to be talking about safety today. We have a very riveting story, and also just want to put a trigger warning out there. Might be a trigger for sexual assault, mentioning of sexual assault. We also have mentioning of potential attempted murder as well. So I just want to throw that out there. If this is a trigger for you, you might want to skip down to the halfway point or further in the episode. If that is going to be a problem for you, or if that's just not something you want to listen to today, I completely understand. I'm not offended, but please take care of yourself, and we'll catch you in for another episode next week. But for everyone else that's sticking around, it's a great episode, and I will be introducing today's guest very shortly. But first of all, I just want to say hello to the lovely Patreon subscribers, including today's guest, which I will announce now, Amy Taylor, who I will formally introduce later on the show. But yes, Amy Taylor has joined my Patreon, which is amazing, and thank you so much. We've got B. York, Eric Araujo, we've got Moxie Mayhem, Selena Money, we've got Geyser, Ted McGuire, Justin Erickson, Snoo, people from Canada, North America, Europe. You guys are all over the place, and there's a lot of you as well on the lower tiers as well. So if you are looking to financially support the show, and I'll let you know where your money's going to. It's going towards hosting my website, helping me fund my adult industry events that I sometimes go to, and also upgrading equipment. That's exactly where your money is going. So if you love the show and you want to do something a bit more, feel free to check it out. It's patreon.com/strippedbysia. And check out the tiers starting at only $4 a month. Also want to say hello to my network. We've got Skyhawk After Dark TV. If you are interested in podcasts like this, video casts, again, centered around the adult industry, then maybe you want to check it out. It's skyhawkafterdarktv.com, and they've got a lot of great shows on there that you can definitely partake in and listen in, and also continue your education about the sex industry. And last but not least, my sponsor, we've got Fox Digital. I mentioned, yes, your money on my Patreon is going towards funding my website. My website is actually made by a friend of mine. His name is Anthony Joe. He's the founder of Fox Digital, and he helps benefit and support sex workers in terms of building websites for them. And because I've mentioned to you before that websites are really important to have, especially for your online presence, he is offering listeners of Stripped by Sia 20% off. So feel free to reach out to him. It's foxdigital.design, and tell him I sent you for 20% off. Now, getting back to the actual episode, I'm super stoked. As I mentioned, we have Amy Taylor coming onto the show today, who is a model and a full-service sex worker based in New York City, who has such a riveting story and so much to say about safety. She has a really crazy story about David Elms, who we will introduce into the show during her story, how she will tell it. But basically, Basically, she was almost murdered. And I don't even like to say those words on my show. I don't think I've ever said those words on my show. It is really scary. And these are things that can unfortunately happen to us, and that we can potentially become the target of. So we will be talking about safety today. It is a heavier episode for sure, but also a really important topic and messaging that we have to share today. So I hope you'll all listen in. Hopefully you will all learn something. But without further ado, Amy, are you there?
Yes. On that some of you in our industry know about this. Some of you have Googled it. There's still some residual news articles and things, and some of you don't know it. And the reason I think it's important to talk about is not because I enjoy reliving a decade-old horrific time, but because I personally know hundreds of people similar stuff has happened to who don't talk about it, can't, won't, that's fine. And because this continues to happen. And the core reason it happens is criminalization / the resultant stigma that comes from criminalization. It happens because our industry is not legitimized. And I use the word legitimized because it's not just decriminalization or legalization. It's also removal of stigma. The reason this happens is because predators view us as a weak target. All kinds of predators. And I was nearly very, very close to being the victim of one. And I would have been just one more forgotten sex worker dead in a ditch, like what happens every single day in my country and many others. And by perhaps the grace of God or whatever, I'm not. And that's why it's important to talk about both how it happened, including perhaps choices I made that maybe made it worse. I don't know. And then ways that you can try to keep yourself safe until my effing country gets some sanity and treats this the way they have LGBTQ plus rights, the way they treat the weed industry. Until we get legitimized, and I mean that in every way, this is going to happen every day. And all I want to do, even for people who don't like me or maybe think I should have been killed, I don't know what you guys think of me, but I just want us to stop getting murdered. That's all I want.
Yeah.
That's why I talk about
that. Yeah, for sure. And that's not a lot to ask for, but like you have said, very frankly, it is a reality here in Canada as well, all across North America, all across the world. Unfortunately, we are seen as disposable and forgotten, replaceable people that people don't care about. But unfortunately, I'm glad that you are still here, Amy, that you're still here with us and you're able to share your story. And we'll definitely get into that very shortly. But maybe if you want to tell the audience, for those who are not familiar with you and your work, maybe tell the audience a little bit about who you are and maybe your entry into sex work, and we'll start off there.
Sure. So the short story, I'm Amy Taylor, amytaylor.com, and on the socials, Amy Taylor. I changed them over to NYC. Some of them I can't change, but I don't know. If you Googled Amy Taylor escort, you'd find me all over the place. I've been around a while. So I did I'm a professor's kid. Father's from Europe. Mother's family's been in America since forever. They met, got married. I have a sister. She's lovely. Good family. I did my undergrad at UC Berkeley. And my second year or third year, I heard of it from a sorority sister of mine. I was in a sorority house. Sorority sister of mine not confessed. She wasn't ashamed, but let me in and told me that that's what she was doing. At the time, I already had a very wealthy boyfriend who had just finished medical school. He was a decade older. I was attracted to that type. Nobody was forcing me. I don't have daddy issues. Like, I just liked him better. I mean, he could take me to Tahiti while another guy didn't even buy me dinner. I'm sorry, but it was better. And he wasn't. Yeah. He was 29. I was, 18, 19. So he wasn't. I liked him. So I think I maybe already had that kind of gold digger stank on me or something. Yeah, it was better. It was romantic, and I liked him. And so I kind of was like a sugar baby. He obviously paid for everything. I was a student, and he was a physician. He made hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I made less than nothing. So I kind of was a sugar baby informally. I met him as a candy striper, volunteering in the ER when I thought I was still going to go to med school before I realized I was too stupid to get out of organic chemistry with better than a C. That's my medical school dream. Anyway, dated her. We dated for years, but I filed it away like, oh my God, sex work. This is the thing. She was a very high-end escort going over the bridge to San Francisco, having dinner dates with tech guys and making a few $1,000 and coming home, and worked for this very fancy agency. And I thought, wow, like she's doing the same thing I'm doing. And she said the guys were nice, sometimes a little dorky, but friendly. And my first impression of it was perhaps too positive, because I stuck it somewhere in the back of my head as holy crap, you could do this. Didn't really need to, didn't. He and I broke up when I moved to Los Angeles for grad school, which I moved the day after 9/11. And I started grad school, lost the rich boyfriend, had some financial need, had lots of debt grad school, and thought, oh, I'm going to find an agency and I'm going to do that. Because that seemed cool, and I like older, wealthy men. They seem to like me. I'll just do this a couple of days a week or whatever. And no agency would hire me in LA. Nobody would. I called some of the best, emailed and whatever, looked them up and found them, and they hired only like actresses and models, and no one would hire me. I wasn't pretty enough. They told me I wasn't pretty enough. They hired very glamorous LA type of women. But one agent owner told me, "You're young. So good. You're obviously very smart. You really are a grad student." I had told her who I was. I was very stupid and trusting. And she said, "You don't need an agency. You can do this on your own. There's nothing you need." And I said, "Well, how do I do that?" And she told me about some advertising websites, and I needed a phone and an email and a couple photos and an ad and pick a name. And that was off to the races. I spent my last little bit of money on a photo shoot and started, and immediately was totally successful. Raised my rates. At this time, there was a site. First, it was called LA Ladies. Then it got called The Erotic Review. The owner emailed me and said, "I want to talk to you about business." I had no idea who it was. Again, stupid, trusting, young. My first couple clients were good. The third one was a police officer, got arrested that day.
Oh, no.
He was very nice until he wasn't. Handled that case in court, took a year or two, ended up okay. Thanks, Tom. Appreciate it. But I will say the upside of that happening was it taught me people can lie. I had no idea. I didn't come from where I came from. If somebody told you this was their name, that was their name. This is who they are. And I learned that people could lie. He was an amazing liar. He arrested me. I learned to screen. And if that hadn't happened, the next person might have hurt me. So it was a harsh lesson to learn, but it was a vital one. So I learned to screen, made some colleague friends online. This owner of the Erotic Review emails me, and I stupidly give him my number. And he called, and he was, of course, asking me to come to his house and hang out, right? I kept saying no. I was trying to be polite. He started getting more forceful with wanting to sleep with me, right? And he told me his site was going to get bigger and he was going to corner the market, and you were not going to be able to be an escort without having reviews on his site, that I needed to get my clients to write reviews, which he would make others pay to view. He would basically indirectly be a pimp, right? His reviews has how he would make money. He said, "I'll make sure you only have good ones. If you get a bad one, I'll remove it. I'll add some good ones under other fake handles. I will make sure you make much more than without me." And this was what he was doing with a few other people I knew that had agreed to. A couple people slept with him when he wanted to. After he had them a few times, he left them alone. That did not work for me. I'm pretty headstrong. Asking to be in our business. If you try to control me, I'm going to say no just to say no. And I told him to F off. Didn't know who I was messing with. Didn't know he would get as angry as he did. It turns out he was a really bad person, collected automatic weapons and did lots of drugs and was a really bad person. I had no idea. I didn't even know who he really was until later. So year after year goes by, he gets more successful. I get more successful without him. I started telling other women, you don't need to be part of this site. Look at me. And you don't need to sleep with this guy when he demands it. If you live in LA and he's pestering you, you don't have to do this. I knew a few who had to and hated it. Of course he wasn't safe. Of course they hated it, but they were doing it they thought they had to. And I said, you don't need a pimp. You don't. So I was, I guess what the street pimps would call a renegade, I was, and they hate that, right?
Yeah.
You're telling other women not to be pimped.
Yep.
Exactly.
I was feel threatened.
Defying authority in my industry. because you didn't need him, and he was bad. And he was getting very rich. And I was making some money. He was making way more. And so in I'd have to look back at the news articles, but it was 2010, the Great Recession had hit.
Mm-hmm.
I started not working a lot, doing other things, had finished grad school, gotten a job also, was still escorting a little bit. Everything was going well, had a boyfriend, was planning on retiring and having children, and fate had other ideas. My parents and my friends started getting very bad messages about, with my legal name. It's not Amy.
Oh, no.
Is a whore, and here's where she lives, and here's what she does, and here's her website. I was being outed all over the place. Paper mail to my parents, emails to people I knew. I didn't know who had done this to me.
Right.
I thought maybe a jealous colleague, maybe a client that I had taken a deposit from and forgot to honor. I mean, obviously somebody hates me, right? Who knows?
Yeah, someone's out to get you.
This guy in LA emailed me and said, I think David Elms is behind this. And I was like, what? Like, I knew he didn't like me, but I haven't even talked to him in years. And I didn't believe it at first. Called my lawyers. The person had bought mylegalname.com and built an exact copy of amytaylor.com, paid the same page.
Oh my God.
But each page, the text was changed and had my parents' information, my address, said a lot of lies about me. It said I didn't graduate from Berkeley, which is a very odd insult. I did. I don't know why that bothered David Elms so much. And then the last page, it said I slept with animals. That was creative. I don't.
Oh my gosh.
And then the last page said, if you don't email this address, the truth about Amy Taylor at Yahoo, things will only get worse for you. So I email it saying, what is it you want from me? You want money? You want, who are you and what do you want from me? And they didn't answer. So I called my lawyer. We filed a police report and a lawsuit because that was the only way to reveal the hidden ownership of that URL. If you have a subpoena and a police report, you can do that. I was terrified because police report means I got to go to the cops, which means I might get in trouble. Which is why sex workers don't go to police. But we took a chance. We decided this is ruining my life. I lost my boyfriend. I lost my job. I miscarried my child. I was going to have a son.
Oh my gosh.
Nobody knew. I had quit because it was recession anyway. I didn't want to tell people. All that got taken from me. And so I became consumed with revenge. Or justice, let's say. So I just went ahead and filed a police report and said, if I catch a misdemeanor, fuck it. Right? That'll just have to be. I'm not going to let this happen. So I did. Luckily, they helped instead of hurt me. Thank God. They didn't love what I did, but they decided to help. So they revealed the ownership. I'll be darned if it wasn't David Elms. And so I was in the grocery store buying salad, I remember, and I called him. Idiotic. My lawyers told me not to, but I'm impetuous. And I said, I know you did this to me. And he was real high out of it. And he said, I didn't, but I know who did. And if you come over to my house and sleep with me, I'll take it down.
Oh, gosh. Here we go again.
So I said, I'm going to destroy you. I didn't mean anything illegal. I don't do that stuff. I mean everything legal. And I did. I spent the next 2 years getting justice. We won a lawsuit. When we won it, he decided to come to where I was living at the time in a different state for my own safety. I had moved. I was in an apartment that was not under my name so that he couldn't find me because we were suing him and we knew we'd win. But he did find me and he drove there. The police called me one night. I was driving home from the airport. I was training and flight instructing. I'm a pilot. So I go to the airport and my attorney says, I need you to pull over. I'm on the phone with the Phoenix DA, Christy Bell, who saved my life. Thank you, Christy. And I pulled over and they said, David Elms is driving to Phoenix tonight to kill you.
What?
Yeah. So I said, okay, what do I do now? So he was coming, he couldn't fly. He had had a problem in 2006 for raping a woman. So he had a record. So he had some issues flying and maybe he didn't fly anyway because he was a massive drug addict and criminal and all this stuff. So he was driving for whatever reason. And the major offenders unit got him, arrested him. He was like 6 hours late. Turns out guys who smoke crack aren't punctual. And then a judge granted him bail. He skipped bail, left the country for about a year. I was assuming I was dead, right? Nobody knew where he was.
Great.
And by the grace of God, he came back over the Mexican border in San Diego 4 days after you needed a passport. You didn't used to need one to come Tijuana to San Diego. They passed a law where you needed a passport. He didn't have one. The fugitive unit arrested him, and he went to jail for 5.5 years.
Crazy.
So he's out now. He's changed his life. He goes by a different last name. The victim services in Phoenix tells me where he is forever, as long as they know.
Right.
The other victim, he also wanted to break some accountant in Phoenix's kneecaps. I guess he was mad at some other guy too. So he had a whole errand list when he was coming to Phoenix to kill me. He had other errands to run. Luckily, that guy is so too. Insane. So that's what happened. That's how I started, and that's how it became. And I suppose the take-home lesson is that I should have just ignored him, but I do not accept that being bullied, harassed, raped, robbed, and beaten is an acceptable cost of our work. We are part of the economy. We have been for all of human existence. It's respectable work for every woman who's mad at us. There's a marriage we allow to continue because without us, they'd be divorced, and that might not be better. It's complicated. We all know it. And I totally reject that we have to kowtow to pimps or allow people to abuse us. I will never accept that. So I made the decisions I made to fight back against a pimp, and I almost died for it, but I'm here.
But you're here, and you live to tell a story,
so
which the story is freaking crazy.
And I hope that he changes his life. It looks like he has so far. I hope that he makes better choices. There is something about the fast money and the wild life of people that manage a lot of us, either off or online, that seems to corrupt even people who start out sane. Again, not always, but I've seen this cycle where many of them start out decent, start an agency, start a site, start an OnlyFans management group. And I guess it's all the money and the power and the women and the parties. I don't know, but a lot of them end up really bad in a few years.
Right.
I'm not sure why that happens, but that's what happened to him.
Money can change people.
And drugs
can be very powerful.
I don't know. It's complicated, like most things.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy,
it's a mixture of things.
He has a kid, and he's lucky to be alive because he was doing apparently a ton of drugs. I mean, he almost killed me, and he probably almost killed himself. So
nuts.
I just want people to behave. Can't you just behave? So.
Wow, Amy, thank you so much for sharing that story, though. That was a wild roller coaster. Yeah, it's just nuts. I mean, I want to ask some questions too. Like maybe we'll start from the beginning.
We're talking about family. My sister said, when you decided to become a sex worker, didn't you think about us? He could hurt me and my kids to get to hurt you. Didn't you think about that? And the truth was, I hadn't thought about that. I didn't think about her and her children and the effect.
Yeah.
Her children are older now. I have friends who are retired sex workers whose children get bullied in middle school and high school because everybody finds out what mom used to do. That's not fair and not right, but that does happen. And
it does happen.
I didn't think about, I was young, right?
Yeah. We were all young. We all made mistakes too. And let's talk about when you were younger, and maybe this kind of started off when you were kind of off shooting as a sugar baby in your early days as an escort. But let's talk about trust for a second. Because we were all young sex workers at one point, very trusting, including myself, especially in my sugar baby days. And I also, like your story sounds so similar to mine, also attracted to older guys. And I was going out on all these dates. I was like, well, I might as well get paid for it and, live that life. And it was fun. But also, we can be very trusting, and that can be very, very dangerous because we don't know these people. We don't know who these people are and what they are capable of doing. If who they say they are is really them. You don't know that. So let's talk about trust a little bit, because I think that can really kind of kickstart the rest of our safety conversation, because it kind of starts there. We don't know who it is that we're going to be engaging with and stuff.
Trust
so
builds the whole world. I mean, we have to trust people to survive. No one can survive alone, and trust is an attractive quality. I think when people like young people and sugar babies in particular, their trusting, naive nature is very attractive. It reminds you of when you weren't older and jaded and, all these things.
Yes.
it's a lovely quality, and many men are attracted to women who are more trusting, because the implication is they sort of haven't been beaten down by life, and they're not, nothing bad's happened to them. They're like a shiny new car, which is sort of gross, right? But we like people
Yeah,
who
and
trust.
malleable too.
The world needs trust. I worked in the oil industry for years after my MBA, and there's still handshake deals done in Texas, and it's lovely. But there are bad eggs. We have a legal system. We have avenues. Unfortunately, illegitimate businesses, as most of the vices either are or have been. We've changed our attitudes toward gambling and weed to some degree, but not everywhere, not in equal measure. When a business is not granted legitimacy, there are no avenues to ensure trust. You can't just go to court. You can't just go to the police. You can't even talk about it, right? The review sites won't take you, or if they do, they're corrupted. So trust is chipped away at. And in our my beloved industry, we have our little networks, but of recent, Fosta Sesta crashed many of them. And so there's less trust and less safety, because they wouldn't even allow us to communicate with each other about how to stay alive. So guess what people did? If you won't let us get deposits, use merchant payment systems, call the police when we need help, go to court when we're not paid, then we're going to go to a pimp, because we're not going to die. And so which world do you want? And people are going to do what they can to stay alive. So trust must be backed by legitimacy. And the world won't yet grant us that. So the trust is our sites since Fosta Sesta are all garbage now. They're all being scammed by hackers, most of them overseas. They're stealing our passwords, logging in as us, scamming clients of deposits. They're pretending to be us. Now clients won't pay deposits or screen because they don't believe it's really us. This is happening in the porn business a lot, where a famous porn star will DM you on Instagram and be like, "I'm stuck. Can you wire me money?" Yeah,
right.
It's not. It's not Elsa Jean asking you to wire her. It's a dude scamming you, sir.
Of course.
So, trust and safety. I see bad things happening in my industry right now with those things, and but I have faith in the strong and beautiful women in my industry that they will continue to trade information by whatever networks we can cobble together to keep each other alive. I have faith that we'll continue to do that, as we always have.
Absolutely. Yeah. And talking about that too, like, I know we all have our own like blacklists. We all have our different groups and stuff about, bad apples, bad clients, bad dates and stuff. And even sex worker organizations will also have that information as well, which is really great. So there are a lot of resources out there that we can turn to. But let's talk about communication pre-date. Communication and things that you should kind of consider before meeting up with said client.
So I made some notes. Preface this. Just my one opinion. I'm sure I'm missing things. I'm sure you should also talk to other veterans. There are also the young are more tech savvy. They have new methods. We know a lot, but you guys also know a lot. So don't at me. I'm just trying to keep you all alive. So, so one person's thoughts. I'll preface it with that. But so I think we should all have like safety screening routines. Many people do. We have, as you said, there are sex worker forums. Ask around. Don't be afraid to DM people on the old Twitter and the Instagram and everything else. There are a lot of private ones. There's some that you can Google. Right. Most of them you won't find if you Google. So ask around. There are forums. They're password protected. They're private. We can talk. There's WhatsApp group, Discord groups, Telegrams.
You name it.
And then there are some of the safety screening sites I'm thinking of. Verify Him, Safe Office, Ugly Mugs.
Yes.
Mr. Great. Number. I'm probably missing stuff. But check the warnings. Check the alerts. You can improve your repertoire. There's a lot of veterans talking about how they ran their business on the YouTube. There's a lot on Twitter. You can to have their own websites. You can read their screening pages.
Screening is so important.
Right? You can Google how to background check phone numbers, emails, plug things into Google in quotes and see what turns up. There's reverse image search, Tinai, Yandex, Google reverse images. And as technology changes, there'll be things that are not here now. So update your
Mm-hmm.
repertoire probably every year or more. Things change, and then use more than one method. The more data you have on a potential new client friend, hopefully a friend, the safer your life will be. Don't just use one thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You want lots of data points to create a picture. If you use LinkedIn like lots of people do, is that an established LinkedIn? Has it been around a long time, or does it look like
Right.
it just got set up?
Right.
Use the whitepages.com. Check that phone number. Check that email. If you're going to an address, check the ownership on a home. Blockshopper.com in many cities, not everywhere, will tell you who owns the home. If it's not owned in his name, find out why.
Yeah.
Does not necessarily a deal breaker, but check the hotel reservation. I'm not going to tell you
Mm-hmm.
how here if you don't know. Message me.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not that hard. And it's not indiscreet. It's not going to put any good man's life in danger or privacy in danger.
Right.
But create a general picture with as many data points as you can have. And that will help you. References can be good. They can also be wrong.
Totally.
So
yes.
Many data points is what you want.
Absolutely. And you've made so many good points here already, Amy. And some of this can be common sense for some folks. There are a lot of newbie sex workers that are listening to this show that, might not even thought about a lot of this stuff. So I'm really glad that you're like literally listing them all out, because there's a lot of ways that you can screen. And of course, I will also preface that screening can be coming from a place of privilege, depending on the work that it is that you do. So I just also want to throw that out there as well. But these are some really, really, in my opinion, really important steps to take to protect oneself, especially in this industry. And also, you were talking about reverse image searches. Mm-hmm. That can also be used on us as well. So yeah, just be aware of that, and be aware of what images you're using. Be aware of the metadata that is on your images. Make sure you strip that first before you're posting anywhere. So I also want to just throw a couple things in there, but
correct.
Back to you, Amy. Back to you.
You guys never use the same pictures in your real life social media. I mean, you youngs are pretty smart at this already with the Finsta. But don't ever use the same pictures for your friends and family as you do for your sex work persona. Unless you want to get outed, or you already have been outed and you totally don't care, then, do you. I mean, but if you're still trying to job privacy, protecting family members who even if they support you, may not want the drama of being subject to your choices. Trust me, it hurt. It scared the hell out of my sister, and I'll be sorry for that forever. So
yeah,
think about who else
that is really scary.
Even if they support you. My family loves and supports me and is not anti-sex work at all, but they also care about surviving too, right? So yeah, pictures, your phone number. I don't allow clients with burner phones anymore. But I'm considering you may not be able to build a business being that strict if you're starting. It's better if you can force them to give you a phone number they own. But Sia talked about privilege. If you keep turning all of them down and you have no business and you can't pay your bills, we all make choices, right? It's a capitalist world. Yeah. In the beginning, my screening was more lenient than it is now in my sunset. That's because I can. Also, to that, save your money. Stop overspending. Because the safer you are later, the safer your life is later. So every time you want to buy that bag, think about how much work that took. You want those shoes?
Yes.
What did you have to do to get those shoes?
Yeah.
And how long do you want to do it? So
yeah, those are all things to consider even before you even get in this industry. And I can't stress that enough too, because sometimes people just want to get in this industry to make a quick buck. But it's not about that, and it doesn't matter if you want to be here in for the long game, or if this is something that this is a transitionary kind of in between jobs kind of thing, or if you're in school, you need to pay off your tuition and stuff. I understand everyone has their own reasons to get into sex work, but it's good to have some kind of plan in place, because you don't know how your life is going to turn out. You don't know if this is not going to be for you. And that happens a lot too, right?
We talked about some of the screening methods cost money,
Yes, they do.
A very good one, if he says he has a corporation with a website, is whois.sc, but domain tools is not free. So, again, to the point of budgeting, there are good accountants that can help you in sex work. I know Companion Tax is pretty popular. I don't personally use them, but I've heard very good things. What is adult.law, Corey Silverstein,
Yeah, awesome.
is fighting hard for us. As you build some money, don't forget to invest back into your business. Again, if you're just doing this for a month, probably this is not for you, but like you want to have a team so that you're doing things correctly, because some of keeping your life safer and your business safer involves some money, like paying your taxes correctly, background checks have been verified, white pages. Those aren't free. They're not super expensive, but advertising is not free. Websites are not free.
Yep.
So don't panic if you're brand new, but as you ramp up, like any business, this is a business.
Yes.
Treat it
as such. Yeah, exactly. Took the words right out of my mouth. That's so important.
My personal decision is I have never, ever seen a man without speaking to him by phone. Now, that second or third client who was a cop, I did not scream back then. I spoke to him by the phone. He was very nice. He told me he owned a scuba diving store in Huntington Beach. All I would have had to do was call them and ask for that name, and they would have been like, who? So super dumb, but didn't know anything back then. Now
we've all been there.
I do much better. But I like speaking to a man by phone, not because that will help you avoid an incredible actor who's an officer, but it tends to help you avoid like the abject, complete psycho. Nothing is always true, but people's voices can be very telling. Not always. True sociopaths can be great actors, but I like a voice. So if you have time and it's the client's discretion allows it, I do think a very brief phone hello can be a good idea. Do with that what you will, but that was always my strategy. And I think it helps to weed out people who are legitimately off their rockers.
I really like that, Amy, because actually when I used to be a sugar baby, and my like version of screening before was like, hopping on a Zoom call with them or doing a FaceTime just to see if they're actually a real person, if their photos match like, what they actually look like and stuff too as well. So I don't know, like for myself, and there's no scientific explanation behind it, but it was like a comforting safety type blanket for myself personally to be like, okay, you are real. That doesn't.
The data you're gathering is their mannerisms. How do they move? How do they talk? Do they skin looks? There is a scientific explanation. It's just so many data points that you're filtering through your noggin and making a decision on this person. That's a rich touch point, right? Video and sugar babies when they're young, they look great on camera. That's fantastic. Me, it takes 2 hours of hair and makeup to look presentable at this age. But
that's what filters are for, Amy. Come on.
My photos, the Yassified filter. I've seen photos of myself in magazines. I'm like, that is definitely not me. Whose skin is that? It's not mine. What sells?
Thanks, Photoshop.
Showbiz. But no, if you want to be on camera, it's a rich touch point. Some guys won't do it. They're worried you're recording them.
Yes. Yeah,
many will.
That too.
And a lot of them like it. I'm sure when you were a sugar baby, a lot of them like it because they get to kind of judge how you act.
Yeah, it goes both ways.
Be careful that the scammers are doing it for revenge porn. They're trying to get you on camera and then get you to do something sexy, and then they're trying to blackmail you with it.
And that too.
So
So just be careful. Totally. Lots of scammers out there. And like what you were saying earlier about burner phones and stuff like that too. Nowadays, there's so many like internet phone apps that people can call people from. So that's another thing that you should look out for. Basically, any kind of fake number, block number. Yeah. That to me is a big red flag right away. And that is a no fly zone for me.
I agree. You can't meet me with a burner phone. And I know that there are good clients who use burner phones. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
That's a no. I can. And I'd rather retire than see somebody I don't, who's a stranger. I'll retire first. Yeah. Sorry. But I know
that's a boundary.
Do that. I understand that. I also personally, I only accept deposit methods. Yes, deposits are mandatory. I understand guys hate them now because of the scammers all over all our sites. I get 200 emails a day from hackers on Trist and all the others. It's completely false. Some of these sites are falling apart. They're not protecting us from hackers. That said, you still have to pay me a deposit or no meeting, and you have to use a method that is non-refundable. I used to accept credit cards. A good regular did a chargeback, lost my merchant account. That's the end of that. Sorry, guys, you can thank me. No chargebacks are possible, and you have to use a method that leaves a paper trail in case you murder me. Won't help me, I'll be dead, but at least the cops will find you. And that is required. It's not subject to negotiation. If you don't like it, you can hire anybody you want, but not me. I understand that's a place of privilege. I've been in this business almost a quarter century and I've earned it. I did not have these strict policies in the beginning because I couldn't have. I recommend them as soon as you can, if you want. And my answer to men who are concerned about losing their deposit is, if you're that concerned about a little bit of money, you're too poor to be talking to me, because you're going to like me when we meet and you're going to spend so much more than that on me. So everybody does. I love that. If I want you as a client, you're going to be my client. So, jokes aside, you set up procedures that are as strict as you can be with your protecting your life, but still earning a living. Right?
Yeah.
I used to find balance all day for guys. 99.99% of the calls were a total waste of time. But I got a few big regulars that saw me for years because they were able to hear my voice. I did that in the beginning because I had to. I don't now.
Totally.
Other safety things. So I think buddy systems can be good if you have somebody you trust. What do you think of that, Sia?
Yeah. I like that too, because like when back in my sugar baby days too, I used to always tell people where I was going and give all the information that I had on this dude to whoever I trusted at that time. And that, to me, another safety blanket. And I also think, if you can, and I know sometimes sex work can be really isolating, but if you can, like, what I think is a good safety measure. Something like, if more people know about this dude, the better, because you just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Behind closed doors.
And if he knows that you have some kind of buddy system, especially if you're doing like quick visits and stuff like that, that's, like whales that take you to the Seychelles for a week, there's no anonymity. He knows who you are on the private jet. It's totally different. But if you're doing like more anonymous type of quickie stuff, it's good for that guy to know, hey, somebody knows I'm with you, sir.
Yeah.
So,
don't try anything.
I don't know if it deter like the total sociopath, but most guys, if they know, not that you want them like scared of you, that's not the right way to say it, but you want them to know you're not victim material.
Yeah.
I hate to say that. Exactly. I wish you didn't have to, but such is life. You can even just leave it written down somewhere and throw it away when you get home. But him knowing there's a live person who knows where you are is sometimes good. You can check in with them when you arrive. Agencies typically do that. And he has to sit there and know that you're checking in, and then check in when you get out, and so that he knows somebody knows where you are and who you're with. So,
yep, for sure. And also, sorry, go ahead, Amy.
I was going to say, and if things are going not like bad, so bad that you're like running out of there and leaving or calling the hotel security or police, but if they're just kind of iffy, you can have things like a code word so that you're keeping control of his emotions, because becoming hysterical and aggressive does not usually work with men. They react very badly to that. Even if you have a firearm, it's not always a good idea to bring it. And in many states, that's not legal anyway. Depends where you are. In my country and a lot of the world, and if you're flying somewhere, the plane, forget it. That's not going to work. Well, men are typically stronger than women. So all these methods of self-defense are sketchy at best. So code words can be good because this person doesn't know that you're that he's on the radar, but yet you're alerting somebody else that and then that person, your buddy, can know, let me just make sure I'm on point here until you get out of there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And even before you go to any kind of place, whether you're out call, in call, or whatever, I believe it's really important to communicate beforehand what your boundaries are, so they won't try anything. And so you are comfortable doing whatever service that is that you are providing. Too many times, and especially, again, going back to my old sugar baby days, like there'd be times where you're like, oh, well, like, for a few $100 more, can you do X? Can you do this? And sometimes, when you're young, especially, like, that's like very, very tempting. You're like, oh, it just sounds so easy. It sounds okay. Like, I can be tempted by that. But that is how you get yourself into manipulative situations and potentially abusive or assaulty type situations. So I think it's really good to have that communicated up front,
Yeah.
whether you're
So
talking to this person, whatever. But yeah, what do you think
many
about that?
men's part of the thrill is to get something they perceive other men are not getting, because that makes them feel special. Either they got a better financial
Yeah.
deal, or you like them better, or both. It's a competitive thing that's very common in men and maybe women too, to push boundaries. If somebody's pushing boundaries with your screening, they're going to push boundaries with your body. So when they push boundaries with screening, for me, they're banned. One boundary pushing your banned forever. We're not meeting. Not if you offer me $1 million a day. Sorry, maybe $1 billion, but no. I could put up with a lot for $1 billion. But a boundary pusher is a boundary pusher. That is the kink. That is the thrill. They will do that. There are those types. You will meet them if you do this business.
Yes.
And in America, you cannot talk about specific acts. So that makes asserting your boundaries very difficult, because it is illegal to talk about services offered. We cannot in this country, which is stupid and dangerous. Thanks a lot, government. You're trying to just kill us, aren't you? But many men, the problem with them clients viewing this as work, the whole sex work is work thing, which is true. They do not like to be thought of as work. They like things to be spontaneous, as if you just adore each other. Being thought of as work takes all the thrill out of it for some men, not all. And so being very frank about what you will and won't do, some guys like that, and some guys really hate it.
Hate that, yeah, for sure.
But if to the degree you can, I think it's important. I would also make sure your phone is always charged before you leave.
Yes.
And I would bring a backup charger. Consider keeping a backup phone somewhere a customer's unaware, because if they tried to steal yours, you would have another way to communicate. I've been to houses in the Malibu Mountains where the cell phone reception is non-existent. Demand to connect to the Wi-Fi. And if it says no, it's time to leave. Walk down the hill if you want to. If you're stranded somewhere with no ability to communicate with the world, is not safe.
Yeah.
Of course, people have landlines. You could call 911. And then program in emergency numbers, your buddy, police, whoever. You can make them on speed dial on one press. I would advise doing all that. Just do that anyway as a human being on Earth.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on deposits? Because I know that can be a really spicy topic among sex workers. And of course, again, coming from a place of privilege, because not everyone can do that. But what are your personal thoughts on taking deposits, Amy?
It is a non-negotiable for me now, but it was not in the beginning. I did not do deposits in the beginning because I couldn't have. I wouldn't have been able to build my business. So of course, when I couldn't, I didn't. Now I do. And it is by only non-refundable methods. I no longer accept credit cards because one regular did a chargeback and I lost my merchant account. And it's a shame.
Oh, right. Yeah, you did mention that.
That method. But I will never do that again. I was ripped off for 5 figures. I never got paid. He emailed me like once a year to troll me about it and literally make fun of me about it. To be like, I got you for free. And every time he did it would ruin my mood for 2 days. So Pascal, I still hate you. Hi. And he did it to lots of people in the San Francisco Bay Area, and someone else got karma for other things he did. I was unable to get karma, but she did, and he suffered.
Oh,
yeah, for other
things. I hope so.
So what goes around comes around. He was a scam artist. He was scamming in other worlds besides sex work, and he got his. So it took years. Karma sometimes happens on God's times, not our time. But hey, I do now. The methods are available on my appointment form page. I'm very upfront about them. And 99.99% of men that email me to meet refuse, and that's fine with me. But if I were building a business now, I would not be able to do that. I would not.
Yeah,
I would not have enough business.
For clients that are listening to this show, like deposits are in my opinion, should be pretty mandatory. It's just like, if you're making an appointment at the spa, they usually take a deposit or they'll charge you whatever. You can't cancel within 48 hours kind of thing. So it's not only protecting like the sex workers too, because unfortunately no shows happen a lot, and like late cancels and all that stuff too. So like at least we'll be getting something out of that. But also most importantly, in our profession, it is used as a preventative and safety measure.
I've
It's
never
so
been
important.
able to rebook. If a guy in the beginning, when they would late cancel, I don't know how other people's business work, but I tried to call the B list who had asked for that date or time or both and say, hey, somebody canceled. I can see you now. Never did the others say yes. No one wants to be second place of like, hey, I would have rather seen this other guy. He canceled and now I can see you. They never said yes. I was never able to rebook the time last minute. Not once.
Oh no, it's impossible. It's so hard. People have lives. People have lives. We have lives.
Well, and what happens is when there's no deposits, what sex workers do is say, don't call me till you're like almost on your way. And then you don't have time to get as ready. Your nails aren't perfect. Your hair. I charge a pretty high premium. My clients expect everything perfect, skin perfect, hair perfect, nails perfect. And they deserve that. They're paying for that. And me rested. And the dog sitter booked, so I'm not rushed for. All that can't happen if you're calling me. These idiots now try to text and say, "Can you be here in a half an hour?" Like, bitch, I can't even look nice in less than 2 hours, let alone get to wherever you're asking me to get. Like, what are you talking about? Have you ever dated an actual human woman? Not. So,
probably not, though.
But there are sex workers doing that, saying, I get ready once and then I wait for phone calls because nobody pays a deposit. They all cancel. I'm only going to book last minute. So it's a race to the bottom. Everything becomes less professional, less reliable. I understand why. It's because deposit scammers are rife. I talked about that site is falling apart. They're hacking accounts of very well-known, very reputable escorts and using those accounts to scam clients out of deposits. That's happening now. And Trist is doing nothing to stop it. So,
oh gosh,
yeah, it's a real problem, and this is all a result of Fosta Sesta ruining our advertising. Yeah. The advertising is all taken over by overseas Bitcoin scammers. It's a disaster in the marketing side of our business right now. And so no, there's no, to your point, there's no trust on either side. But I will run my business with trust and integrity. I have never flaked. I have never been late. I have never scammed a deposit, and I never will. And so I don't know what is going on with other people, but when you hire me, you're going to pay a deposit and I'm going to be there perfectly and do my job. And if you don't like that, you don't hire me.
Yeah, there's plenty of others out there. Plenty.
I'm going to hold to the standards and I don't care who hates me for it. I think it's a business and I think I will treat it as such.
You have to.
And I'm not the only one. There are wonderful people on both sides. There are plenty of men. I was just prepaid in full for an appointment that's 3 weeks away. Now, he knows he can trust me because he knows me, but he's never caused drama with money, and I have never caused drama with his schedule because it's not even the money. This man's time is important, and he's giving me his time. So
you have to understand that. Yeah.
Anyone who gives you their time is giving you moments of their life they can never get back. If that's not precious to you, you need to learn some respect for other people. Right?
Yeah.
So,
or improve your business ethics.
That involves things like getting sleep the night before. You don't miss your flights. You don't miss your Ubers. You don't party all night before so you look like shit and feel like shit for your clients.
You just don't do that.
Sorry about the hangover from the tasting menu last week, sir. I know you're watching this. I did drink too much at a tasting menu a little while ago. Hi, he knows who he is. But usually we both don't do that. I don't know. It was really good wine. But
well, you know what? Actually, that's a good segue though, Amy. Talking about like, being under the influence of whatever, whether it's because obviously whining and dining can be a part of the job. And, sometimes a little cannabis doesn't hurt either. But like, what are your thoughts on that too? Because there can be a fine line with that where you could tip over.
Of course. I mean, we all need to live our lives. We're all going to be dead in a few decades. You got to have some fun. And because I'm a pilot and I get drug tested, I don't do drugs anymore. But I mean, I went to Berkeley. I tried stuff a little. But days, I was younger. It hits different in your 40s. I don't recover like I used to. But I still drink because that's all the FAA will let me do. No judgment. Obviously, being super high and drunk is less safe. because you're not your
You're
whereabouts.
not coherent.
I would recommend if
Mhm.
you tie one off with a guy either at a restaurant or you go to a strip club together. I've done that. It's super fun. You get
Yeah.
a little drunk. Do it with people you really know and really trust and still have all your safety measures if shit goes down. Live your life. Enjoy your life. Being 100% sober would be better. But
Yeah.
you're a human being with a life. If it's a guy you've been seeing for ages and you trust him and you know each other, you're probably not going to get murdered if you have some drinks or smoke some weed
Mhm.
together. And I've known some stoner clients. They didn't really like me because I don't do that. We weren't the most compatible, but they were really nice. And
Yeah.
one of them went to one of my girlfriends and they smoke weed together and have the greatest appointments and trips together all over the planet. They're great. So
Mhm.
just like deposits and every other thing we're talking about, you have to adjust and pick your data points for what works for you. You like to smoke weed
Yes.
with clients? Make sure that's somebody that you can trust. I would
Yes.
never get really high or drunk on a first appointment with a stranger. I don't think that's smart.
Yeah. No.
I wouldn't do that. And I would make sure to do all my checks and things sober and then check back out when I'm no longer high or drunk.
Yeah.
Again, being sober would be better, but life is about compromises. So you have to do what's right for you. And if you can stay sober and still have fun and keep your client happy and he's a good dude, then do that. But
Totally.
the hard drugs, I would not. I mean,
Yeah. Wouldn't touch it.
Well, you're talking about one more legal risk, right? Because it's criminalized, at least here.
Yep.
That's unfair and probably wrong, but this is the way it is. So now you're adding another layer of legal risk, which why would you?
Mhm.
And dealing with people who sell drugs and traffic drugs, those are often people who handle things in pretty severe ways. Are those people you really want to be close to in life? I'm not trying to be judgmental, but use your judgment about
Mhm.
because you are a product of who you hang out with. The people
Right.
in close in your life will be the people that will affect your life. So use caution
100%.
who you decide to be around.
Of course. And maybe we can start wrapping up as well, because I mean, we could go on and on and on about safety measures, but like one point I think is important is separating work from personal. Having aliases, having separation between, your personal life or personal social media, your work social media and stuff too. Let's talk about that briefly before we move on.
Yeah, I mean, I think the cam workers and adult film actresses are really good with like privacy issues. Maybe better than full service sex workers who like do the blurry face stuff, or some of them do who weren't outed like me. I get in touch with the cam work. They are very good about DMCA takedowns, dealing with revenge porn, watermarking, stripping metadata. Yep. There are apps that Sia talked about. I'm going to tell them all to message you. If you work for an agency, assure they protect your privacy. We don't have right to erasure laws like they do in Europe, but those are coming, I hope, in America. So scrubbing things will become better. DMCA takedowns are pretty easy with a good attorney. It's not expensive. And if you're doxxed, it does happen to most of us eventually. If you're in this world long enough, you will be okay. I promise you will survive. It doesn't feel like it right now, but you will. Take time, get therapy, talk to people that love you. Massage your feelings of wanting revenge, because you will be mad. It's fair.
Yeah,
you're human
for sure.
You will find out who loves you. You may lose some friends and family. It happened to me, but choose what you will admit or deny or refuse to talk about. And I want you to know you have nothing to be ashamed of. You are a part of this world. You're a valuable part, and you matter. And whatever people say about you because they want you to hate yourself, if they dox you and you lose your privacy, they are wrong. And I think you should stand tall, and you should be proud of who you are and the contribution you make to society. Sex work is legit work. It always has been and always will be. And do what you can legally about the doxer or whatever happened to you privacy-wise. But But don't forget to stand tall. I promise.
Yeah.
You'll survive it.
That is such a great way to kind of end this conversation, Amy. I mean, like, as I mentioned, we can continue to talk on and on about safety because it's so important. It's so vital. And this is
Please
our
do.
lives we're talking about,
Keep up the
right?
episodes on it. A lot of other people have better advice.
Yeah, I'll open the questions in Spotify. If you listen to Spotify, there will be some questions there. If you want to contribute to this conversation, if you want to join this discussion, you can do that there. Because I'd love to hear what other safety measures you guys are doing, listening as listeners listening in, because there's so much stuff that that I don't know. I've been out of the sugar baby game for a long time, but I've shifted on to online stuff. So it's very different, but would love to hear your thoughts for everyone else that's listening on, what methods you are doing to protect yourself and share. Like, I don't believe in gatekeeping at all. I feel like everyone should be benefiting from this information. So yeah, this is just the tip of the iceberg. So thanks for kicking off this conversation and discussion, Amy. There are a couple questions that did come in from the audience. I want to make some time for that before we let you go for realsies. But some questions that came in. This person writes in from Twitter. Do you have any regrets in your career? Are there any things that you would do differently?
Probably would have I might have ignored David Elms rather than tell him to fuck off. But I don't regret what I did because I helped take out a bad person. And I'm proud of that.
Yeah.
But there are so many bad people. So it's a Medusa's head. I didn't solve much by helping get rid of him, even involuntarily. But I poked a bear, and I hurt my family and the people that love me the most and have been with me despite the choices I've made and the harm it brought them. They love me in spite of myself. And that's a grace I didn't earn and I can't repay. So I might have just looked out for my family and me and not tried to be such a hero.
Yeah, that's a tough one too, because obviously sometimes when you come into this industry, you don't expect your family, to know anything. For a lot of us, yes, a lot of us are out and are open with their family, but some of us want to keep that stuff separate, and I don't think you ever would expect that some crazy person would go after you and your family. Like, I would never wish that upon anyone. But unfortunately, it does happen. So I'm glad that you brought that up in your story, Amy. The last question is here. What has been your favorite date?
Oh, God. So many. He's probably not listening. And if he is, hi. We went through so much. The Seychelles and the Maldives, maybe.
Amazing.
Formula Ones. Or flying by private jet to San Francisco where he had a bespoke menu made at Quince for me for my birthday.
Oh my God.
Super Bowls. He knows who he is.
Love that. Love it.
We're not friends. I wish we could be someday, but it's probably better for him that we're not. And he's doing well. And I'm both thrilled and happy and also very envious. because I'm a human being. But
real talk.
Well, those are odd feelings to have. I want the best for him.
Yeah.
But I'm amazed at how well he's doing and probably doesn't even think about me. He probably doesn't. I don't know.
Aww.
Who knows? It doesn't matter. But the 2 weeks in the Seychelles on a place called De Roche Island. It's a private island that the Four Seasons own, and it has a tortoise sanctuary. And
Amazing.
We cut up all the fruit. The villa thought we were probably fruit insane addicts, but we would chop them up and bike out. They have private bikes, and you bike out to the tortoises and fed them. And this one little tortoise, she was the size of a piano, but she was in love with him. And she went as fast as a tortoise could go, which is still not very fast. I was jealous. She would come and he would give her apples. And
oh my God.
I just saw the new woman he's dated, and he's taken her back to the same island and done the same exact things we did. And I hate it. But he's rinsing and repeating with the next one, and good for him. But I had those experiences for a few years, and it was spectacular.
Good memories.
There you go.
Yeah,
Seychelles.
spectacular for sure. Amazing. I mean, Amy, it was such a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you so much for sharing your bravery, your story on the show, and all of your expertise over the last 25 years of experience that you've had in the industry. But before we let you go, where can people find you?
Oh, thanks. And let me say thank you for all you're doing. This is important, and I think it's so brave and so honorable, and it's my honor to be a tiny little part of it. So thank you. You can find me, amytaylor.com, and then Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, and most of the socials are Amy Taylor NYC. Most of them.
Awesome. Please reach out. Amy is excellent to speak with, as you all have heard over the past hour.
I'll do what I can to help anybody stay alive. You don't have to even like me. I don't have to like you. I just want us to all survive.
Yeah, we all got to survive this. And for everyone else that's listening at home, it's Stripped by Sia on Twitter. You can find me there. Or sorry, it's called X now. My bad. I keep saying Twitter. And please follow my Instagram. Mine was taken down. So it's Stripped by Sia Podcast is where you can find me there now. And if you want to join my Patreon, it's patreon.com/Stripped by Sia. And if you want to be on the show, feel free to pitch yourself. Give me all your talk points. Give me the best you've got, and hopefully it'll be a fit. But you can do that on strippedbysia.com or through X, Twitter, whatever, and we can develop and collaborate on an episode together if it works out. So with that being said, it's new episodes every single Sunday. Thank you all for joining me. Don't forget to like, share, comment, do all the things. Rate 5 stars if you can on Apple and Spotify. Answer those questions in Spotify, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you so much for coming onto the show and speaking with me, Amy.
It was an honor. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.
Thank you. How did that go for you?